Hello friends, it's Lady Lioness. I've been off of YouTube for a couple of weeks, taking care of just personal stuff, but I am back. And as you can see, I have a new haircut. Yeah, I couldn't stand it anymore how long my hair was getting, and my hair is thick. And Idaho summers are hot. And not to mention, I'm experiencing hot flashes right now, so I finally was able to make an appointment with my beautician, and she made me look good, and I got it cut extra short just in case it's going to be a long time before I can get out to get my hair cut again. So yeah, so I have been promising to talk about Lion's Pride. You hear me mentioning Lion's Pride, which is the organization that I founded in 2006. And so here is what the logo looks like. And I created this in 2006 because I was involved with a bunch of different groups, and I, felt like there was some gaps in the LGBT community that needed to be met. So at first I was like, well, how come some of these groups don't cover this or this? And I thought, well, I'm somebody, why don't I start something? So I started a group, and I called it Lion's Pride just because, and the name kind of comes from, well, my nickname in the community is Lady Lioness, so here's my Lady Lioness logo, and I used that logo to do my astrology business. For, if I haven't mentioned it before, I'm an astrologer, and I don't really do it as a business. It was more of a hobby, or less of a hobby, as something I just was interested in, wanted to learn for myself, rather than depending on newspaper columns with horoscopes and stuff. And I wanted to learn how to do my own horoscopes, and it turned out to be a wonderful thing. I have done some business with astrology, but it wasn't my main passion, so I didn't continue with it. Occasionally a friend will have me do a reading, and it's fun. But that's how Lady Lioness came about, and I also used the Lady Lioness nickname, I guess, to do dances. When I DJ dances, I do it under DJ Lady Lioness. And every once in a while I still use the name. For a long time in the LGBT community, I was called Lady Lioness, and I occasionally still do. But my main focus has been through my organization Lion's Pride, and it's really hard to describe to someone who doesn't already know what Lion's Pride is, because I created it with enough fluidity that it could just be used to fill whatever need I saw in the community. And but the basic idea behind Lion's Pride, if I could define it as anything, is I wanted an organization that helped our community to treat each other like human beings, to look at each other like human beings, to offer a helping hand whenever needed. And that's the main idea behind it. Initially, I did a lot of work in the LGBT community because I saw a lot of areas that weren't being covered by other organizations. And sometimes there was a little bit of overlap, but I worked together with a lot of organizations over the years, and I think we've done a lot of good. My organization is not really a political organization, although at times I have dipped my toes into political work when there was a need for that. This past January and February was one of those exceptions where I got really involved with, pardon me, with the politics, because the Idaho legislature decided to put out a lot of biased bills. And one of the things I try to fight is bias, and that includes we do a lot of anti-racism work. We do a lot of LGBT rights, or just supporting LGBT people, like if they're coming out and they need resources, or if anyone in the LGBT community needs to know, say, where a friendly counselor is, someone that isn't going to judge them for being LGBT, or just something like that. We had acquired a lot of resources over the years, and even now, occasionally I'll get a text, "Hey, do you have a resource for, families that need some support?" And then I'll point them to PFLAG or whatever, stuff like that. And most of our work has been done actually quite privately. It's not a lot of the work that I've done through Lions Pride. It can't be reshared really, because it was done privately with families or individuals that just really needed their privacy, but needed an extra hand. So we've done a lot of work in the LGBT community, and then at some point it expanded and we started doing work with refugees and with Black Lives Matter. Not so much the political some with the political not, okay, there is no official Black Lives Matter in Idaho, but since we do a lot of anti-racism work, as from time to time when there was a big news story where Black Lives Matter got involved, we certainly came alongside Black Lives Matter and supported hopefully specifically individuals who just needed some support. And also, see what else, with refugees, I specifically did some work with refugees in teaching English and civics for individuals that wanted to take the naturalization exam to become an American citizen. That really was some of my favorite work right there, other than working with LGBT youth. That was another. I think our most successful program was the Lions Pride Cubs, and the Lions Pride Cubs is a group that not so much meets on a regular basis as created events that were safe for LGBT kids, and our most successful regularly attended event was an LGBT dance that we did every winter that we called Winter Wonderland. And it just created a safe place for LGBT kids to either bring their dates or just hang out with their friends and dance and be themselves and not have to worry about being bullied or by other students or even adults that may not understand their romantic life. So, and also with the Lions Pride Cubs, we did a lot of work to try to steer kids away from drugs and alcohol and tobacco, because we want LGBT kids to grow up and have the healthiest, most substantial life that they can possibly have, and also to support kids that might be feeling a little suicidal. If we couldn't help them on that end, we also pointed them to other resources in the community. There's been lots of other examples. One of the other thing is another group that is, or not really a group, another program that Lions Pride does that isn't quite as well known is what we call Gaze Upward, and gaze is spelled G-A-Z-E, Gaze Upward. It's more of a spiritual branch of Lions Pride, not necessarily religious, but it's spiritual in the sense of those that have a belief, whether it be Christian or Muslim or I don't know, Hindu or whatever their belief is. It's for people to find some support on the spiritual side. And one of the stipulations is also that for those who are LGBT friendly and have a spiritual side of them. It doesn't necessarily have to be an LGBT person, just as long as they're friendly towards the LGBT community. So those are some of the programs that Lions Pride has done. There's so much more, but I could never quite possibly cover the expanse of it, because we're basically an organization that supports diversity. And diversity, to me, also includes those, I mean, it seems like people tend to believe that when you talk about diversity, that you're not including white people, or that you're not including men, or that you're not including, you know, whatever. I try to be as inclusive as possible, with the exception of we do not include those who are trying to be biased or bully anyone. I really believe in kindness, and I know that sometimes kindness is hard, especially when we're angry, but I also believe in allowing people to express their anger so long as they're not going to harm someone. Because to be healthy people, we also need to be able to express what we're feeling. And if we're feeling anger and we're not being heard, that does not bode well for your mental health. I've experienced that myself. So that's kind of not so much in a nutshell, but the basic idea behind Lions Pride. And, you know, a lot of times it would just be someone giving me a call to refer someone to me, just to figure out their place in life sometimes. And I created this organization because when I first came out of the closet, it changed my whole world, because I did not grow up in a community or circle that really supported me as an LGBT person. Once I figured out that I was gay, I was not in a supportive community. So I never wanted anyone, no matter when they come out, whether they come out when they're young or they come out later in life, I never wanted anyone to feel how lonely and scared I felt coming out of the closet with zero support. Thankfully, when I looked into the LGBT community, I did find support there. And I just wanted there to be a place where families could come, and even if that family doesn't know, let's say there's a Christian family and someone comes out in their family and they don't know how to handle it, I even want to support the family, you know, because coming out really isn't a one-person thing. It's like when someone comes out of the closet, it's sort of a coming out for the entire family, because they have to figure out, you know, especially a family that didn't grow up in a supportive atmosphere, they don't know how to handle when someone comes out. You know, conservative families, in spite of, you know, barring all political arguments, just throwing those to the side for right now, it's hard for conservative families to really understand how to be supportive of someone when they come out as LGBT. And sometimes they want to be supportive, but they don't want to be turned into, they don't want to be alienated by all of their friends and everything. I mean, it's a complicated issue coming out is. So that is kind of what Lions Pride tries to do, to be supportive of an entire family if they want or need the support. You know, of course, primarily supporting the LGBT person, because that is the most vulnerable person in the situation, but also trying to frame the coming out in a way that even a conservative Christian family might be able to at least think about what that means for the entire family, because I like to try to keep families, you know, communicative and supportive of each other if at all possible. And we've been surprisingly successful with that. You know, I wish I could share without exposing families who really want their privacy. I wish I could share some of the stories, and maybe in future videos, maybe I'll be able to touch base with families and find out if it's okay to share without naming names some of the stories. But I want to check with those families first, because I don't want to invade anyone's privacy if that is unwanted. So that is basically what Lions Pride is. It was initially an LGBT organization that kind of grew into a diversity-wide organization that supports sexual orientation, refugees, immigrants, anti-racism, you know, mental health, people with disabilities, and that's another one that I didn't get to touch on. You know, right now, people with disabilities are really struggling because they're being, you know, people with disabilities are mistreated by the public more often than you know. You would think people would have some compassion, but they really don't. So, you know, it's really, you know, it's not about any one group or of people, or it's definitely not about politics, although occasionally, because this is life, we have to get involved with a little bit of politics. But it really, to summarize it all, Lions Pride is about humanity and treating each other like human beings and humanizing those that usually are dehumanized and, you know, mistreated. So, you know, that's pretty much it. So I hope I did that justice. If there are any questions, feel free to leave a comment. You know, I respond to respectful and civil responses. Anybody who gets mean, don't be surprised if you don't get a response. So anyway, that's it. So yay, we finally got to that topic. I kept promising it in previous videos, but so that is Lions Pride in a nutshell. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm still self-isolating as much as I can, although I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to see friends, so I invited, this week I got to invite 2 different people on 2 separate occasions to meet in the park and sit socially distantly and just talk face to face. It felt so good to finally, after months of not having much more than a hi-bye contact with friends, you know, when friends have brought me things that I needed and just dropped them off briefly. It was so good to spend, like yesterday, I got to have breakfast with a friend. We sat in the park and ate breakfast socially distantly and spent 3 hours talking. I think we both really missed each other, and it was great. And of course, no hugs. I instead hugged a tree in lieu of my friend and said, "This is me hugging you," and I hugged a tree. So that was good. But anyway, I hope everyone else is doing well. I don't know what else to say, so I guess that we will conclude at this time. So this is Lady Lioness signing off, and come join us again on Lady Lioness and Friends.